Welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you are a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Child Care Director's Chair.
Hey guys, Erica here with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast, and I have a question for you. What if the most powerful word in early childhood education isn't no, but yes? Yes to curiosity, yes to belonging, yes to children being seen, heard, and valued exactly as they are. Today we are sitting down with the one and only amazing Carla Ward. She is a visionary voice for transforming how we create spaces, yes, spaces to be exact, for children. Spaces where children learn, thrive, have equity, and all the good things. So welcome to the show, Carla.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
So, to the folks who are listening, if you care about children, education, or the future that we're building together, this is a conversation you need to stay dialed into. What does that mean to you beyond, obviously, it sounds cool, but what does that mean to you?
Okay, so the simple answer is basically building a space where children are able to move around the room freely, allowed to do anything. The deeper side of that is building autonomy, critical thinking. You're building a space that is actually for children. So I always like to say, if we're building spaces for children, so if I say this is a preschool room, then it actually needs to be a room for preschoolers, a room where preschoolers can move around, make choices that are their own, touch everything in the room, climb whatever they want. And as soon as I always say that, I always see when I do this in public, I always see at least one person's shoulders go up a little higher. So one thing I always like to say is this is not going to turn into Lord of the Flies. It is not chaos. It is not complete mayhem. If anything, actually, through my experience, it creates a calmer room. Because when you really, really think about children and the lack of choices that they have in life, it really contributes to why they battle with us sometimes. Because we tell them where they go, when they go. We tell them when they're going to school, when's lunchtime, when's nap time, when we're going outside, when we're coming inside. They have so little choice. And we really have to pull back and allow children chances to think, make their own choices, and discover and feed their own curiosity. It's now more than ever, especially with AI entering the picture, because children aren't going to have to think the same way we had to as children. You know, if they want to know a question, hey, AI, what's the answer to blah, blah, blah? They aren't going to have to sit in their thoughts. So giving them yes spaces where they think, oh, I'm really curious about this. What happens if I? Or getting into situations where there's conflict. Conflict is not a bad word. Giving children a chance to work through conflicts. What it allows for us as educators, and I'm totally going on a tangent.
No, go, girl, go.
Is we actually get a better chance to connect and build relationships with them when we've actually built an environment that says yes. Because we are no longer correcting and directing. We're now having space to connect because the space has been allowed. Now, if we find ourselves saying no to certain things, the follow-up question has to be, well, how do I turn this no into a yes? And more importantly, why am I saying no? Is it my own beliefs? Is there danger? Or am I just a control freak? Because that used to be my answer. Mine was always control because I thought I was keeping them safe by controlling them. And that's not necessarily the case because you can't have children hanging from the chandeliers. You can't have children putting chairs on balls on tables and standing like a Dr. Seuss novel where you're balancing. That's not safe. But the question is, what need is the child trying to express when they're doing those behaviors? And how do we turn it into a yes to meet those needs? So that's my tangent.
I love it. So what I want to ask is what was the moment in your career when you realized something needed a change in early childhood environments?
Do you see how gray I am? I don't know if you can tell, but I started at 19 And I've been going great for a very long time, but my stress level was through the roof and I had to make a choice. Something had to change in my program or I had to leave because I couldn't keep going in this pattern of stress. I was noticing that my memory was going and my memory should not have been going at 25 years old. Like it shouldn't have been in that pattern. There were just certain things that were going on that, I felt like I shouldn't be this stressed for a job that is so much fun, but I wasn't having fun. I was yelling. Felt like I was walking on eggshells. I was stressed out before I even walked through the door of my classroom. I was anxious. That's not a way to live. And I'm sure I'm not the only educator that feels like this or has felt like this. So I was like, what am I going to do? And honestly contemplated going to work at Starbucks because I was there every day anyway. So why not make some money off of it and get free coffee? That was literally the way I was going. I was like, you know what? I want a job where I can clock in, clock out. And then I was sitting in my classroom. I was like, I live and breathe ECE. So something had to change. So I focused on my environment and focused on connection. And funny enough, when you start focusing on your environment and really, really paying attention to the room that you have created, and you change that, whether it's your home, whether it's your work life, whatever it is, the environment really is that third teacher. It really is the space that creates. And so the first thing I did was I got rid of clutter. Clutter drives chaos. If you are listening and you have a pile of artwork sitting on your art easel or your drying rack, it's time to recycle it or send it home because that is clutter. We do not need clutter. But then even looking at again was, where was I controlling? I used to have a teacher shelf and it had the prettiest things on it and it had my teacher books on it, but the kids weren't allowed to touch it. And so this is where I was constantly in a battle, was the most beautiful, enticing thing was sitting on that shelf and their curiosity was there, but I was constantly like, get your hands down, no touching, like, no, thank you. And so when I started leaning into what's the worst thing that can happen and just leaned into yes, suddenly 3 months down the road, I'm sitting at the art table having a conversation with a child and being like, oh my gosh, I'm having a conversation with a child. We are actually connecting. My shoulders are not touching my ears anymore. I'm actually excited to see what they're going to create. Like, this is not an overnight switch by any means. We have to let go of a lot of our own stuff. And I was fortunate enough that I was a solo teacher. So I didn't have a co-teacher that I had to take along with me. That one's always a tricky one. But really, it was, I can't keep going like this. So it was either change my environment and who I am as a teacher, because I can only control me and my environment, or quit. And I wasn't ready to quit.
When you had said, like, you're in the room and you're creating a safe space for children, if we don't teach them how to create their own safe spaces, what happens when they go into another room that you're not in, right? So they need to know how to use things safely and be able to navigate in the world. Like in your house, there's going to be scissors, right? Most homes have scissors. So if we're constantly overcorrecting and taking things and putting in places where kids can't reach, what happens when they walk into a room where they can? So teaching them, these are could be dangerous. This is how we use them. This is how we use them safely. What are the rules around, scissors or other things or, climbing shelves, all the things, right? I think, when we're constantly correcting, when we're not there, children won't know what to do. And I think it makes more sense to have them know what to do in those situations.
Absolutely. And if we're constantly correcting, we're sending the message of, I don't trust you. I don't believe you're competent and capable. So when we lean into yes, we're saying to the child, hey, you belong here. You have autonomy. And I believe that you are competent and capable. So even things like a child struggling with a zipper, I have two choices. I can jump in and zip it up for them. Actually, I have three choices. I can let them struggle, or I can let them know that I'm here if they need my help. And I like option 3 because it's saying, hey, I see that you're working really hard and you're trying. If you need help, just let me know. Because the best thing about yes spaces as well is it develops that growth mindset for children. It lets them know that things are hard, but when we keep trying, we're more successful. And again, going back to that whole AI, I'm talking 0 to 5. I'm talking about really building those spaces before phones get into those little hands. Because when we can build intrinsic motivation for children where they believe in themselves, then they're not going to grow up to be children who depend on those likes on social media. as well as with AI, if we say, keep trying when things get hard, they're not going to jump onto Google. They're not going to jump onto AI the first chance to struggle. They're actually going to struggle. And that is not a bad thing. I don't mean suffer. I mean struggle, to keep trying, because life is full of falling and failures. And if we keep saving them, we are not doing them any services. And if we put them in this little no box, then their curiosity is not going anywhere. All you've done is suffocate it within your room. And that curiosity is going to come out in other places when they are older and no one's watching.
Yeah. Learned helplessness is a real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does yes spaces look like in action for children, educators, and families? Talk us through it.
Okay, so in an environment, essentially it's your third teacher. So it means that I have scissors openly on the shelf available for children to use. I have a variety of materials and paints available for children to use. It means I'm going to relinquish my control, and I am going to be okay with paints mixing. And I'm going to be okay with, Play-Doh mixing. It means in the block center, I've got open-ended activities. It means I have blocks. It means I have a lot more loose parts versus pre-designed things. So I always say a plastic farmhouse can only ever be a plastic farmhouse. So I removed all of that and brought in the blocks to allow for that curiosity to grow. In my dramatic center, I removed pre-designed fruits, food, all of that, and I replaced it with loose parts. So rocks, pom-poms, pipe cleaners, and really just leaned into the children's interests and followed their lead. Now, does that mean that I just sit back? Absolutely not. If anything, it's more work in the beginning. Because if you are switching to a yes space, you are going to have children who are used to being controlled. If their home environment is very controlling, and I don't mean this negatively either, they don't know how to do it. So when my co-teacher and I, when we first introduced processed art, so this is before I knew what yes spaces were, I will never forget a kid going, well, what are we supposed to make today? And we were so excited. We're like, whatever you want. And she goes, yeah, but what am I supposed to make? And she got very frustrated that we wouldn't tell her. And we said, well, you can make whatever you want. And we said, well, you can make a tree, you can make a flower. Well, guess what she made? She made a tree and she made a flower. So if anything, that converted us onto this process art roadmap, because we were like, oh my gosh, this child can't even decide what to make for herself at the art table with open-ended materials. And I then moved into my own room and had my own kindergartners and preschoolers. And that really got me leaning into yes spaces, because I need children to think for themselves. We need adults that think for themselves. But you can't do that when they're adults. It starts in the 0 to 5 when their brain is developing, right? So we have to trust them, but we have to introduce it, right? Like you can't just put scissors out, because that's how the tops of fingers get clipped off. I know this from experience. You have to introduce it and say, these are scissors. This is how we use it. Maybe you do a table activity where you practice your scissor skills together. Maybe there's a certain child that you stand a little closer to when they're using scissors because you're not entirely sure. But again, if you tell this child, I don't trust you with scissors, all that's going to happen is this child's going to sneak scissors. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, you don't trust me with scissors? I'm going to give you a really good reason to not trust me with scissors. Versus leaning into that positivity of like, wow, look how careful you're cutting, and being so responsible with those scissors, right? Connection over correction where you can.
I love it. How do you explain to families, they walk in and maybe, they're looking for that farmhouse, or they're wondering why you don't have, because there's lots of fancy, I call them the fancy centers, right? There's lots of those around, right? And that's what they're selling on, the aesthetics. I have plenty of those centers next to me. How do you explain to parents when they have toured 5 schools and they walk into your program and they're like, where's the stuff? Where's the stuff, right? That's how you say it in Rhode Island. Where's the stuff?
Literally. So one, preempting is always best. Let's assume that every parent is asking that question, whether they actually ask it or not. So giving them a package about the importance of play, but not just Like, play is great. Children learn through play. Let's give them actual facts. Let's talk about how 90% of the brain develops before the age of 5. Let's talk about how, it takes 10,000 tries to learn, to master a skill. But in play, and of course now the number just left my brain, but it's significantly less when a child plays. Let's give them the answers they're looking for. Let's tell them, how's your child going to learn their name through play? How's your child going to learn their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s and their math through play? Because it's all there, right? Let's give them, or put it outside on a bulletin board outside your classroom. Let's give them the answer before they even ask the question. But then documentation is your friend. So let's say you use an online app where, it's that quick picture and you send it to parents. Being very, very intentional with the caption that goes with the photo. So you're not going to just snap a photo of a kid painting at an easel and saying, having fun painting at the easel. You're going to talk about how they are building their pre-writing skills because they're building up their shoulder muscles by pulling down. They're understanding letter formation because letters start at the top. So they're pulling down. We're learning about mixing colors. We're understanding the science of mixing, depending on what you want to teach. We can't assume that everybody, appreciates play, understands play, or respects play. So we have to guide, right? But we have to be so intentional. They're not having fun painting. They're working. Play is the work of children. So again, I go back to that mixing colors and us being okay with it. I mean, that is some teacher's nightmare. That used to be my nightmare. So, however, though, when you think about what happens when we're mixing paint, that's curiosity in action. I wonder what would happen if I mixed these two colors, right? So maybe you put actual primary colors that mix to discover the secondary colors. So it's that intentionality, but you have to help parents understand, because maybe by the grace of God, they transfer that learning at home and be like, oh my gosh, let me put an easel in my house to help you build your pre-writing skills. Let me relinquish control at home to work on my relationship with my kid, right? It's hard being a parent. So if we can help them see the benefits in, mixing paint and playing, maybe we can get the iPads out of their hands at home as well.
Yeah, I love it. I could talk to you literally all day, Carla. No, because I had just had a conversation with my team last Thursday and Friday, and we were talking about curriculum implementation, but how we showcase that to families, how we document that. And we literally just had that conversation of Johnny smiling, had a fun day. Like, no, that is not what we need to be writing there. No. So how do Yes Spaces support children's emotional safety, identity, and sense of belonging?
Okay, so first things first, when you're designing your classroom, you need to do an assessment. You need to look at your books and your toys. Are the children in your program being represented? Does a child walk into your room and see their family dynamics, their skin color, their culture? Is it represented in your program through the books, through the photos on your wall? Better yet, can you put family photos on your walls to let the families know they're welcome? One thing came up this year when I was doing a Yes Spaces, and they said, well, what if there's a really tricky family situation? And I can fully respect and understand that. You have to make that decision as an educator if that is the case, because we are not looking to, perpetuate trauma for any child in our program. Our rooms are safe spaces. But for the most part, I encourage you to have, a family album, a family tree in your program. I don't want to walk into a classroom and see pre-printed photos. That does not tell me belonging. Great. You put a multicultural poster on your room. How do I actually know that there's belonging in your room? That poster means squat to me. So I want to see it in the toys. I want to see it in the stories you're reading. I want to see it in the way you actually teach and welcome your students. How do you greet your children? Do you greet your children when they come to your door? I cannot tell you how many centers I've observed where, educators cleaning the table, and I get it. We have a million things to do. And, a child walks through the door and like, hi, and their head's back down cleaning the table. You know what? That table will be clean in 2 minutes, or that table will still be dirty 2 minutes from now. Your opportunity for connection with that child is gone. So leave the mess. The mess will wait for you. That opportunity to connect and tell a child, hey, you're welcome here. I'm so glad you're here. That is going to be gone within 30 seconds if you don't jump on that opportunity, right? So looking at How are you building connection? How are you saying, yes, come in. I want you here. Also, and this can be really hard for some of us when we hold up a mirror. Are you unintentionally picking on a specific child? Are you saying yes to some children and no to others, even though they did the exact same thing? And some of us don't even notice that we're doing it. You know, I remember, and this was a hard one for me to come to terms with for myself, was I would hear chaos behind me and I would assume it was that child that started the thing. And I would, what did you do? Okay, well, hey, that's not how we build confidence, self-esteem, or a sense of belonging. I already made an assumption to a situation. Like, that's horrible. And it was really hard for me to come to terms with the fact that I was doing that. I was making assumptions. That is not a yes, what I call a yes mindset. It was, let's assume innocent and let's look at what happened. Okay, how do we turn this into a yes? How can I support your autonomy in this program? I see you want to try this. That makes me nervous. So what can we do instead? Right? That connection and having those conversations with children is how you build belonging. Giving them a voice in your room. Listening to them. If they have something to tell you, stop, look, and listen. We expect them to do it to us, but we forget to do it for them, right?
Love it. Yeah. All right. So as we start to wind down, you can listen to Carla all the time. She has the ECE Everything podcast. So if you love Carla and you're digging Carla, certainly hop on over to her podcast. Secondly, y'all need to be in the room at the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference. She's doing a whole session on yes spaces for children. So let me make sure I don't miss any of my notes here. Carla, what can attendees expect from you at your session?
All right. So you will understand yes spaces on an even deeper level. You will understand how to communicate to families what a yes space is, but you will also learn how to design it. But most importantly is how to switch your own mindset, because it is a big pill to swallow for sure, especially because there are curriculum rules, there are ministry guidelines, there are safety concerns, right? Like I said, I promise you this is not me promoting a giant Lord of the Flies system, okay? Come, I will help put your mind at ease, answer your questions, but also show you what a yes space can look like, and especially diving into why autonomy is so important for children.
I love it. So why is it so important for educators to gather in person, which we were talking about this before we hopped on the podcast, but why do you feel it's so important for educators to gather in person right now, especially in this field?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so first of all, connection is everything. We need to connect with each other, because the thing is that we are connecting with children in person. And we've seen it with all those kids with phones in their hands. They have no idea how to connect with each other. And I'm afraid that we're falling into that trap where we are forgetting how to connect with each other because we have access to cell phones. So if we don't know how to connect with each other, how on earth are we supposed to connect with children? So in person, 100% is the way to go.
If someone is on the fence about attending the conference, what would you say directly to them?
Oh, just burn the fence down and come anyways.
You are coming in from Canada, flying into Rhode Island. I'm so excited. And some people are like, Erica, why are you doing a national conference in Rhode Island? And I said, why not? First of all, it is a beautiful state. Secondly, for my friends that are traveling, Rhode Island has the best, easiest airport in the whole country. That's not my opinion. That is a fact. They were rated one of the top airports to fly into. I mean, it's a breeze, really, truly. So if this conversation sparks something in you, imagine 3 full days of it. Join us, May 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Crowne Plaza in Warwick, Rhode Island for the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference. We have 30 speakers just like Carla. Well, there's no one like Carla, but 30 amazing educators that are coming out to meet with all of you. There's 50 vendors, there's live podcasts, there's networking, there's a Meet the Author book signing, a paint night, and a Best of the Best ECE Awards night. Like, this is where inspiration meets action. So your seat matters, your voice matters, and the children are counting on us. So get your ticket now. Links below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Child Care Director's Chair podcast.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Child Care Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sakosio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.